You are sitting at a desk. There is a letter in front of you. White envelope, already opened. Government paper. You can tell by the weight of it, the particular texture against your thumb. The lamp is still on from last night. Morning light is coming through the window behind you, making the lamp unnecessary, but you haven't reached over to turn it off. You are not thinking about history. You are thinking about whether the letter means what you think it means, and whether the number inside will be enough. You set it down. We need to go back 80 years before we can tell you what that letter says. The sound of a factory whistle first. That is how mornings begin in Essen, Germany, in 1933. Coal smoke in the air, the particular cold of the Ruhr, wet and heavy, the kind that settles in your collar. A factory worker pulling on his coat, checking his pocket for his tram ticket. His daughter waves from the doorway. He is not thinking about politics. He eats 3,000 calories a day. He has no reason to believe this will stop. Something is being built. You cannot see it from the street. But in 1933, in the same year that factory worker waves goodbye to his daughter, a set of contracts are being signed that will determine how that daughter eats or doesn't for the rest of her childhood. Ford's German operations record profits of 25.8 million Reichsmarks that year. By 1939, those profits will reach 60.4 million. The factories are producing military vehicles. Some of the workers are not paid. They are not there by choice. In July 1938, Hitler awards Henry Ford the Order of the German Eagle, the highest decoration available to a non-German. Ford accepts it. In New York, an IBM executive writes to Berlin, expressing his highest esteem for Hitler, his country, and his people. He means it. The war arrives. You know this part. What almost no one tells you is that the war's arithmetic had been running for years in ledgers, contracts, and the punch card machinery that IBM's German subsidiary had been renting to the Nazi government since 1933, helping it sort, track, and locate human beings by religion, by race, by address. 70 to 85 million people will die. 60 million will be displaced, the largest forced migration in human history. The Nazis draft a policy written, signed, titled, called the Hunger Plan. Its purpose is to divert food from occupied Soviet populations to German troops and citizens. It is not a side effect of the war. It is a decision. 4.2 million people are starved to death under this plan between 1941 and 1944. The men who sign it do not go hungry. Germany surrenders. The 8th of May, 1945. You are standing in the ruins, not metaphorically. The building across the street is not there anymore. 3 walls of what was a church, a pram in the road with no child near it. The cold is the kind that finds you through your coat. You are given a ration card. You stand in the queue. You hold the card. The ration it entitles you to in the British occupied zone in March 1946 is 1,000 calories per day. You count what that means in real food. You count again. The number does not change. In Essen, the actual ration received that winter falls to just over 700 calories a day. The waterways have frozen. Food ships are trapped in harbor. There is no coal to heat water. Infant mortality in North Rhine-Westphalia rises to 8.5 deaths per 100 births. In 1939, it was 6.1. The difference is the peace. You take what you can carry. Your grandmother's crystal, a tablecloth, a mirror in a silver frame. You pack them into a suitcase and ride a train north toward the farms because someone said the farmers will trade. You knock on a door. A man with 10 cows answers. You ask for a cup of milk. He says no. Here is what you do not know yet, standing on that doorstep. The hunger is not an accident. There is a document with a number, JCS Directive 1067. It orders Allied commanders to take in the directive's own words, no steps looking toward the economic rehabilitation of Germany. Americans are forbidden from sending aid packages to German civilians. The policy is to let the German standard of living fall. When the man who holds this policy is asked directly whether he wants the German people to starve, he says, "Why not?" That man is President Roosevelt. While you stand on that doorstep, on the other side of the Atlantic, the same companies that supplied the war are now supplying the peace, and the peace is very profitable. General Motors used forced labor in its German factories to build Wehrmacht vehicles. American pilots bombed those factories. General Motors then billed the American government for the damage. They received $32 million. On the 2nd of May 1941, in a Berlin conference room, whose minutes still exist, a Nazi official named Herbert Backe described a plan to starve tens of millions of Soviet civilians as a rational solution to Europe's food supply problem. He used the word surplus for the people who would die. The document was signed. The plan was implemented. That same week, IBM's New York headquarters was processing maintenance contracts for the Hollerith machines its German subsidiary had installed inside the camp's machines built to sort human beings, running on punch cards, requiring ongoing technical support. After Germany surrendered, IBM collected the wartime profits its subsidiary had earned. Time moves forward. 1953. The London Debt Agreement. Germany's debts are cut in half. A clause defers further reparations until a final peace treaty. 1990. That treaty is signed. Germany declares the question permanently closed. Greece says no. Poland says no. The arguments are still happening. But here is what most people never hear. On the 3rd of October 2010, Germany makes a payment. Not on WW2 debt, on WW1 debt, on the interest from bonds issued to finance reparations imposed in 1919 interest that had been running through the Depression, through the rise of Hitler, through the Second World War itself, through the Cold War, through reunification, through the decade you learned to use the internet. The 3rd of October 2010 is also German Unity Day, the 20th anniversary of reunification. Germany celebrated becoming one country again on the same morning. It wrote the last check for a war that ended 92 years before. We return to the desk. The lamp is still on. The letter is still there. It is a payment from the German government administered through the Claims Conference. It arrives because in 2024, 82 years after Germany surrendered, Berlin committed $1.4 billion to Holocaust survivors, 176,000 people, in over 80 countries for that single year alone. You fold the letter, you look at the lamp you forgot to turn off. Scientists studying the children and grandchildren of survivors have found measurable alterations in a stress response gene called FKBP5. The trauma of what happened between 1939 and 1945 has been biologically transcribed into people born decades after the liberation of the last camp. The war is inside their bodies. The institutions built from the rubble of 1945, the United Nations, the World Bank, the IMF, NATO, still govern every international crisis you have watched unfold in your lifetime. You did not choose this inheritance. You were not asked. The war ended. The bill did not.